Hello everyone, and welcome to part 2 of my making of video for Daenerys' blue Qartheen gown. If you want to see part 1, the link is in the description below. But, moving on, I start by getting some of my newly painted fabric to try draping the back of the gown. Emphasis on the word trying, because I am rubbish at it and my lack of patience never bodes well for me. Attempt 1. I tried to thread the fabric through the gaps of the shoulder straps I made, but it was too bulky and there were 2 gaps in my shoulder strap, which I completely forgot about. Attempt 2. I teared my chiffon a little in the middle so I could thread the fabric through both shoulder strap holes, and I pinned it in place so I could see whether it would work, but I couldn't bear to continue working on my mannequin. So, back at my sewing table, I threaded up a needle and gathered the fabric by hand. I then started to pin in the rolled edges to the strip. I did this all the way around the panel, which was quite time consuming. I moved on to sewing the rolled edges down, and I repeated all of these processes on the other side of the gown for the back panels. After this, I took both of the back panels of fabric and both shoulder straps and threaded them both through. I turned over the raw end of the gathered top section so it is hidden, and I pinned it all in place. Next, I hand sewed the gathered top section down securely, but I made sure to only catch the top of the fabric slightly so none of the stitches are visible at the front. Here's what it looks like from the front. After completing the back panels, I moved on to the front ones. I pinned the fabric to my mannequin, making sure to add extra fabric at the top so there would be enough to thread through the shoulder straps and turn under. I let the fabric drape down so I could see how long the panels would be, because unlike the back panels, they have to be floor length, not flowing outwards in a train. I put a pin in where the panel needs to end, making sure to add extra to include for hemming. I then took it off my mannequin and ripped it at the line. It's quite satisfying ripping fabric, really. Gets all the frustration out. I proceeded to prepare the top edges of my panel. However, I changed my tactics slightly in the hopes of it being less bulky than at the back. I split it in the middle again and pinned it into a rolled hem along the top edge. Last time I left it raw and it turned it under, creating more bulk, but by rolling it under straight away, it will already be tidy and it wouldn't need folding under. I decided to quickly hand sew it all in place because it was too much hassle to get my sewing machine out. And next I hand gathered the top edges like last time. I also threaded it through in the same way and pinned it in place again. I put the shoulder strap back on my mannequin to see if the hem was even and the drape was nice. I also tested what the creation would look like with the belt around it, which I was very happy about, which you can probably see by my reaction. This is me checking the hem. I had to be cautious with the measurements. It is always better to have too much than too little, so I measured the excess fabric to take off the bottom. I pinned the hem up so I could double check the length of the front panels before sewing it down. It ended up needing to be turned up more, and the second time round it was perfect. It looks a little wonky on the video, but I took it off and I tried it on myself and it was level to the floor. So I moved on to sew it all down. It was a very repetitive process and I repeated all of this on the other front panel too. Next, I measured from my waist to the floor to create the skirt for the gown. I used this measurement to prepare the fabric. I continued to create panels for the skirt until I ran out of fabric. I wanted to use as much of my fabric as possible in the skirt to make it full and super gathered and flowing. This is all the fabric I had left by the time I finished. I decided to use French seams on the skirt panels. Therefore, I pinned the skirt panels wrong sides together and I sewed them off camera. I then clipped down the edges of the seams using my pinking shears. This is so I can turn the seam out and sew the French seam without worrying about catching the first seam that I sewed and making it visible on the outside, which would be messy and annoying. Here is my pile of fluff from the selvage edge of the first seam. Imagine that times by 5. Here is me pinning the seam with the right sides together. This is what you would do originally when creating a normal seam. I ensure to make the seams small and neat so they lay flat and look inconspicuous. And then I sewed it on my machine. Here's all of the fabric that will go into my skirt. I rolled hem both edges of the skirt panel so they were neat, and then I sewed them securely, which took a long time considering there's about 5 meters of fabric to get through. Taking a break from sewing, my wig for the costume finally arrived. I was so excited. I bought the wig from Wiggers Fashion and the link is below. It is a lace front wig and the quality is amazing from the feel and it was exactly what I wanted. I loved that it came in a beautiful box and the wig was in a cute pink satin pulley bag to keep it nice and safe. This footage shows me threading golden ribbon into a channel I sewed in along the top edge of the skirt panel. I put a safety pin in the ribbon and started threading it in. When the ribbon reached the opening of the fabric, I pinned it in place, not wanting it to disappear into the skirt channel. I continued to thread the ribbon through, moving the chiffon back, gathering it together as I went along. And then at the end I tied off the ribbon ends at the opening of the skirt so they would stay outside and I could use them to pull on. I tried the skirt on after this process to see how it looked. I moved the fabric around and tied the ribbon in place. Then I tucked the ribbon in so it couldn't be seen from the outside. And then I moved the gathers around my body so they were evenly spaced. I was happy with the result, as I'm sure you can tell by me swishing around my sewing room. I know the skirt is much more fuller than Dany's in Game of Thrones, but I couldn't resist using the fabric I had to make it bigger. Next, I moved on to threading the beads that hang down the front of Dany's gown. It is hard to notice the detail in the show, but they are there. The footage of me threading the beads was so long because it was so fiddly, so here's the end result. The sides of the beads get smaller the further down the gown they go. I attached them to the front panels and I was done. Here's the side-by-side comparison of the costume on me. I think we can all agree that Emilia Clarke pulls it off better than me, but I'm very happy with the result nonetheless. I liked how the gown moved when I walked, and I felt very regal while waltzing about in my back garden. Now I just need an army and dragons. Thank you so much for watching my progress videos, especially if you watched part 1 as well. It means a lot to me. Bye!